So, welcome everybody back to Veil of Sound. Yes, we have another surprise interview for you today on a normal Tuesday, not our regular interview day, but I listened to a record, I liked it. I asked the guys if they wanted to do an interview, so I'm very happy to have the three fellas from Pyramid Mass here. So, guys, thanks for joining.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and I see that Joey is now parked because nobody knows, but a minute or two ago he was still doing 100 on the highway.
Allegedly, maybe.
No less.
So, guys, I would hope that everybody would be familiar with Pyramid Mass. I unfortunately doubt it. So maybe you first say what you are doing in the band, apart from looking handsome and wonderful.
I guess I can go first. I'm guitar and I sprinkle in a little bit of vocals, and to me it's like a gristled 211, but also has its dynamics down to, we can take it down to a 1, and I feel like that's how we can get up those hills. But yeah, like a gristled but yet still delicate, still a tinge of hope, just nasty band. That's
Next one, please.
Well,
Joey, why don't... Okay, Wild goes first.
All right, yeah. Well, I'm Matt, and I play drums and do vocals, and I like to do a lot at once. It really fuels my ADHD brain. So um, I enjoy the challenge that it presents when we write the things that we do, to find out where can I scream and play drums, and when it's better to let other people kind of fill in the spaces.
We'll get to that. I think there is something in there. But Joey, you go last, but not
Sure.
least, of course.
Sure. And that's how I joined the project as well, which was interesting. It was just these guys as a duo, and then I came in offering the bass and vocals with Matt, and then I also more and more, even on this most recent EP, play synthesizers with it simultaneously.
It's very interesting that we already get a hint at what the band is about and what variety of soundscapes they are producing. But first, the other question that I like to ask on the Veil of Sound is always, do you have any kind of band shirt, merch from your band or from another band that you would like to plug here? I'll give you a moment to think, because I want to support my friend Amaya Lopez Caromero, as I've learned, aka Maud the Moth. Wonderful singer, songwriter meets drone. But you guys, anything from your or another band that you would plug? I see Nicholas is wearing a band something.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but Mortiferium. I happened to catch them with who was it? I think it was Cannibal Corpse in Richmond, and that other avant-garde New York band that I can't remember the name of. But yeah, Mortiferium.
Imperial Triumphant?
Yeah, that's it. That was the tour. Yeah. And I saw them. I'd done no research, and they were playing, and I was like, "This is the angriest I've been in so long at a show. It's so great."
Wow.
Do you mean the Mortiferium gig itself or the whole package?
Their set in particular. Everybody that night was great, but their set was the first time in a long time I didn't know about a band that showed up and was like, "Oh my God." Fantastic. That's my plug.
I didn't know that, Nick. I didn't know that's what that shirt was. And nor did I know that you went to go see them on that tour package in Richmond. That sounds incredible. I'll plug my other band because we just put out an album, and it's called Night Idea, and we put out a full length a couple months ago, and we're still riding that high. And it's definitely a different vibe than this band, but that's a fun one that I also love to play in, which is very different from this band. But yeah, Night Idea, check that out.
And last but not least,
yeah. So I got, you probably can't really see it, but I got Mitch. It's kind of like a teeth suck noise. It's an album by a local hip hop artist, Nicholas F. And it's like really introspective storytelling, and it's kind of like begrudgingly. The album is kind of like about begrudgingly accepting responsibility. But he's very well known in the Richmond area, and he's really blowing up. He's like one of the biggest local hip hop artists in coming from Richmond right now. And yeah, he released this album last year, and I really like his stuff, even going back before that. But yeah, Nicholas F.
It's interesting that we basically have 3 different things that you are dropping, and in a way, I would say none of them are related to Pyramid Mass. But on the other hand, I could see you guys doing nearly everything like that in Pyramid Mass, because the way I absorb the band, it's like a huge mix of eclecticism. Like, okay, we want to do a synth track, let's do a synth track. Let's do, for lack of a better word, a black metal track. Is that something that is important to you, to do what you like, to play any style you would like to do?
It's to me, I've my past for the past 20 years has been doing way too much in every band, and pulling from so many different influences. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I'll talk in PR about us, really honing in our sound and really like trimming the fat and trying to figure out what we should sound like. And I totally realize as I'm saying this, that most people are going to be like, well, actually, there's like still a million things going on. But to me, I'm really proud of getting it down to maybe a handful, because this band and other bands I've been in have just really will just go on run-on sentences. And I think we're dialing that back and really trying to figure out what works best for a song. But for sure, it travels. But no matter what, even if I was trying, let's do the simplest thing possible, it would wind up being, layered in some way.
Yeah, because I mean, like, when I listened to the new EP Gargling Rot for everybody out March 18th, when we are recording this, I'm not sure if it will be released on the 18th, our interview, or a week earlier. But if it's the 18th, go listen to it. If it's a week earlier, go and listen to it on the 18th. It's really, really good. Gargling Rot. But when I listened to it, I had a feeling, and maybe it's just my feeling, but it feels as if the level of aggressiveness is going down track by track by track. Especially with the 4th track in the middle with Spectre. Is that something that happened by accident? Or, I mean, it's an EP, a 5-track EP, 18 minutes approximately. Did you really put Spectre at that exact spot in order to give us like a breather? Many questions at once, I know.
Yeah, it's fine. We typically, what we did with Monolith is the same we did with Gargling Rot, is that that's the order in which we wrote everything, and it kind of came to fruition naturally in that way, and really didn't have to play around with the track order at all. Like, we debated about it, but it turned out to be just the way that we wrote it is how that we ended up track listing it.
And is then, okay, so it's not the way that you wanted Spectre to be a breather, but it's different to the rest of the tracks. So with the next record that you will probably already been scheming a little bit in your head, or maybe, I don't know, but can we expect even more synth work? Will Joey have more stuff to do?
I think that's a great question. Nick and I, back to like Nick's point, how we envision ourselves as simplifying even more, that seems like a logical step. And I've been really leaning into that with Nick. So I can't speak for the future, but it feels like a very rational direction where at least I could see ourselves heading into. I love those soundscapes. I think the soundscapes just capture that more emotional side, and then when we can lean into simple heavy parts, they just pummel that much harder. So yes, by all means, I want to kind of keep going that way. That might not actually happen, but we'll see.
I think we will.
Nick, you go first.
I think we'll continue down that way for sure. I feel like the palate cleansers, like I'm really proud of the pacing of this EP, and I do think that it would have been really exciting and fun to add more onto it to make it the full length. But I felt like the pacing worked really well, and part of that being that little valley towards the end where you're like, okay, you know, I could leave it here, but it's you know, giving it space to go back up. It's giving you that 11 that you can go to, whereas before, if you didn't do Spectre, you could only go to that 10, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the range becomes bigger, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It will be interesting to see how deep your valleys will be and how high and peaky the mountains are. Because, I mean, I have to say that I still, you know, thinking about Nick saying, okay, we're trimming the fat. Yes, maybe. There is a lot going on. And that leads me to another question. Do you write songs or do you write parts, which you then put together into songs?
We usually write, it's Nick and I that do a lot of writing together. And so we
I mean, of course, Joey's the bassist. You know, what does he have to say?
He's invaluable. He's invaluable. He comes in there and goes, why are you doing this? And then we go, well, I don't
Absolutely.
know. And then he definitely, it's funny. He's the trimmer and it works out. I've always really excited to get his input to be like, oh, what this like 10 seconds is really cool, but then this 45-second run-on sentence is, you know, not necessary.
But sorry, Matt, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, you're fine. It's great because like Joey's classically trained where Nick and I are not so much. So Nick and I will get together and we'll write more of like, well, this is what we feel like it should be structure-wise. And then Joey will come in, like Nick said, and be like, this doesn't work because of this and then this. And he'll come in with all these great ideas. And he doesn't really change it, but he just kind of emphasizes what's there. And then we do kind of trim the fat. And then at the very end of it all, or probably right before we get finished with it, I'll start writing lyrics and stuff and figuring out where can we place things with Joey and I lyrically.
Yeah, it's an interesting job coming in with two guys where you can't technically speak the language of music, but it's just purely based on everything that we're
That's
hearing.
A nice way of saying they don't know shit, but anyway.
It's literally what it is. So there's a difficult part because like in terms of maybe even like a rhythmic sense, we're not speaking the same language, but I am drawn to it, and I genuinely believe it's what kind of creates the vibe because we can only speak in terms of what we're listening to, which is awesome. So I find this job of syncing up the rhythm and then letting the melodies carry themselves. I try to think of it in like a pop sense, and it does not come out that way at all. And that's what it's so much fun for me to kind of come in behind them after they do a lot of the writing. And I try to structure it like a little bit, and then that's kind of like the last 10% after they do all of kind of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you say like we don't speak the same language, because it doesn't feel that way. When listening to the EP, every track feels as if it was written by a threesome who really understands each other. So that definitely, I would say, is a big plus for you. It never feels as if there are three people in the band that do not share the same vocabulary.
Absolutely.
I think it's like creating our own vocabulary, though. Like, I think that in both of my main bands right now, we have been doing it so long that there is like this alternate reality of speaking, and we understand each other really well in both bands, even though it might not be, the appropriate way of doing it.
I think there is no appropriate way.
Yeah.
There is no appropriate way.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, the EP sounds as if there is always, or nearly always, a kind of underlying synth soundscape underneath all the tracks. I don't want to say that it's always the same one, but this synth thing underneath the songs gives it some kind of connection. Yes. Is there like one underneath nearly everything?
Yeah, there are hints of it. There are more hints of a melodic theme that Nick and I are leaning into more and more, that goes back to your question of, are we writing songs or are we writing parts? And Nick will write parts with Matt, and when we get all together, and then Nick and I will do sessions together, we tie them as themes throughout the entire EP or album. If that's the future or the past, we try. I think we're doing a better job of it every time we do this. And right now, these tones are actually kind of fun because, like, yes, you may actually think it's a synth, but Kevin, who is recording us, would be literally confused of if it was Nick's guitar or if it was my synth. So we kind of,
or your bass,
or my bass. Yeah, I mean, we were. Yeah, but yes, it is a synth vibe, but we're using a lot of different instruments to get there.
And that is also important, I think. So Nick, you go on.
We've been sticking with themes, and we've been talking about that a lot. Just the imagery that we use and the themes within the music. And I've always been like, well, we can't play those three notes again. We've already done, and now we're like, well, actually, let's like, I don't care if we play that exact part before. Let's bring it back. Thematic, I think, has helped this EP a lot.
It's interesting that you talk about certain tones. I also listened to your back catalog, which exists in the form of an album from 2022 and an EP from 2020. And I had the feeling as if the cover artwork also somewhat leans into where you're going with the EP. When I looked at Monolith, it's got this kind of cosmic or interstellar theme going on. Somewhat reminded me of Silver Surfer. I don't know why. And I had the feeling as if the songs were reaching upward a little bit more, whereas with Gargling Rot, to me it seemed like a coffin in a cave in a lake somewhere, something like that. So it sounded very guttural, let's put it like that. There is a lot of distortion on it. Is the cover artwork for you an important thing?
Absolutely. I think that we spend tons of time sharing images back and forth and trying to figure out the theme. And I think that like Sputrid is it's a dark cover. It's like a skull and some guts and stuff. But it's also got a playfulness to it, where if you listen to Sputrid, you're like, oh, okay, they're still having fun here. And then as we were getting more cinematic in Monolith, I think that came through. I thought that the cover matched it perfectly, of kind of more open, more grandiose. Yeah. And then as we're getting, I love the word guttural, as we're getting more guttural and darker and more like dungeon synthy, where I felt like that, or the coffin was appropriate too. And it's all kind of leaning into what's already been established in the metal community, but then trying to give it like a more contemporary lens that we're going through.
Definitely. Also the color scheme, for example, on Gargling Rot, when I listened to the record and then I watched the wonderful live video live at a hallway which I find very interesting as a title and as a concept. There was also a lot of turquoise on there. What came first, the album cover or the Life in a Hallway video?
I think the album cover did, and and I think that the lights. I think we did it for one thing, and then it was like, well, that's the thing, and we're picking that color, and we that and a smoke machine, and you've got the theme that we.
But did you recognize the turquoise thing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is also something where I have to say, I mean, like, obviously you are all handsome as hell guys, but you are not in your early 20s, I would have to guess. One notices the experienced musician behind it, right?
Yeah. We've all been we've been just in the Richmond scene, I'm sure, for, I don't know, forever. We've been doing so many projects, and everybody's done so many different things and collaborated with a lot of people, and learned to work in groups.
I have to. Oh, Matt got lost somewhere on the way. I have to come back to one thing, and that is probably closest to Joey. Joey, there are some near orchestral or neoclassical things going on in the record. Is that stemming from your own background, where you say, like, okay, guys, I love those two parts, and let's put this thing underneath it?
Yeah, I mean, wow, you're really you're responding to everything we are trying to project visually and audibly. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is not my job. I take it seriously.
Yeah, like this is great. Yes, extremely intentional. The best example I can give is in the last track, After Spectre. Nick and I wrote this one where he's kind of just doing this very atonal, kind of black metal-y chord structure, and the bass is like this mid to low range. What I wish could happen is just like these low register. I mean, I'm so drawn to like Gustav Mahler would just have these incredible, intense, emotional, just like low range clusters. And I built this silly effect, and Matt is just blasting over it. And I literally, I'm so happy that you were referencing it as like as an orchestral movement, because I just literally, it's just this movement to me, and Nick and I are cycling between them, and that is exactly what we were going for. And I think it is so cool that a 3-piece can successfully pull out an orchestral vibe that could be picked up on. So thank you for recognizing that.
You definitely do. And there is one thing that I found very interesting. You are, I mean, like, your sound is very hard to put into a box, and genres usually are shitty as hell. But there is definitely noise. There is definitely hardcore. There is also black metal in a way. Is that, are those real influences, or is it just what you guys come up with?
I think that it's more of what we come up with. I am less influenced by those genres now as I was maybe 20 years ago, but maybe because there's some nostalgic aspects that I'm always trying to relive with when I'm playing some heavier music. I am not shamefully, I don't seek new music as much as I should in like the heavier genres, and that's on me. So I think for me, it's what just comes out, and that just sounds so egotistical and a bit ridiculous, but I I'm like exploring these genres as I'm playing with these, you know, with Nick and with Matt. For instance, like in that last jam, Nick is just or Matt is just blasting a lot of it, and then he kind of breaks off in this like hip hop beat, and I'm just like, I want to lean into like these black metal elements sometimes of just like a more lo-fi vibe, and just the rhythm section is just kind of on this cog and just repeating and repeating, and then the listener and the player can just kind of get lost in it.
So Matt, glad that you're back. But would you say, okay, I am still in a way influenced by noise, hardcore, black metal?
I do listen to those genres. I would say, kind of to harp off what Joey said, I listened to them a lot more when I was younger, and was focused a lot more around that energy, especially when I was like really before I got sober. I was definitely more into that more darker realm of self-abusive type of just, you know, dark energy. And I think I get my influence from a lot of different things, but like, yeah, I don't really invest a whole lot in the heavier. I do like listening to it. Nowadays, I feel like maybe it kind of throws off my energy if I listen to it too long. But I do enjoy it very much so. I also like to not listen to as much as a way so it doesn't like get in the way of my own creative process, so I don't end up like accidentally ripping off something that I'm like listening to a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like a kind of like a balance game too.
Nick, are those influences for you, or it's like
I think absolutely they are. I tend to listen to the news until I have to turn it off, and then have silence, and then I turn on heavy metal music, and then I have to turn that off, and then I turn the news back on. That's basically the cycle. But I try to go to as many concerts as possible. I used to run a venue, and I was going to everything across the board. And when that venue was gone for me, I realized like, oh, I really like to go to like ignorantly heavy things, and that's where I normally wind up. Not to say I don't wind up at an indie show. I still enjoy everything, but I think my heart is definitely in like the desperate and angry genre.
I have one last question before we come to the infamous quickfire round at the end, and that is, how should I say? A lot of musicians make music in order to get a kind of catharsis on stage. When listening to yours, I never had a feeling as if it was ultimately pitch black. There is always a little thing on there where it's like a little tongue in cheek and a little silver frosting on the horizon, right? You are not doing this in a sense of, oh, we got to get rid of our demons, are you?
Oh, I feel like the sprinkle, like just like everybody has a lot of things going on. I think there's things in there that, as far as like for instance, I do vocals incorrectly, and I kind of just tear up my vocal cords and the pockets that I do it. And so I'm doing this, and I'm channeling everything that's going wrong in those moments. But then I'm also peeling back and joining in on like a Sigur Rós type moment. And I do think that both of those things are things that I need to work out. And I feel like just going through heavier things somewhat recently kind of showed up for me in the record. So I do, yeah. It's therapeutic for me for sure.
I fully agree.
Yeah, Matt, first of all.
Yeah, I just fully agree with that statement. Like, I use it as a form of therapy. I mean, I'm playing drums, so I get to hit things a lot more than everybody else does.
He's very, very
so that
heavy
always
hitter.
helps. It definitely helps with getting out any kind of demons, as you call them. But I mean, I would just call it, you know, working through energy that has been stored up for a long time of just not confronting it and dealing with it, and it really helps with this type of music. It just really helps, and with the lyrical content that like the things we sing about too, it just kind of helps work through some of those ideas, and repeating them a lot, it kind of brings it to fruition, and manifest. Yeah.
Then let's get to the infamous quickfire round at the end. I will always give you 2 alternatives, and each one of you has to choose and maybe give a short explanation for his choice. Let's start with bands that have singing drummers. I looked it up, and there were really a lot that I didn't remember. I still remember that Phil Collins fucked up one of my favorite prog rock bands, but anyway. I'll give you, first of all, Mastodon versus Under Oath.
Mastodon.
Mastodon versus Under. Okay, Joey's fast.
I'm gonna go with Mastodon. Yeah.
All right. Mastodon.
Although, like, I will say though, I didn't really listen to Mastodon as much when Bren started singing. That's kind of when I fell off, because he wasn't singing on the first, like, Remission or Leviathan. Those are the albums in Call of Mastodon, and those 3 albums were the ones that really stuck with me. So I don't know. I don't really listen to Under Oath that much. So there you go.
And as I found a lot of more bands, I got another couple for you. I hope that you're familiar with both of them. I'm not sure. Brutus from Belgium versus Lightning Bolt.
Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Lightning Bolt. I'm not familiar with Brutus.
Yeah, I'd go with Lightning Bolt.
I know of Brutus, but I don't know them, and I've seen Lightning Bolt 10 times and love them. So Lightning Bolt.
Then I will throw in the towel for my friends from Belgium.
Sorry.
I got to support my senior over here. And I have to get back to the press kit that we got, and I don't know who wrote it, but the one who did it is referring to 2 awesome death metal bands. And so I'll give you Krallice versus Gorguts.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
I gotta do Gorguts. Gorguts for me.
Dude. I gotta go Krallice. That last record was just beautiful. It was so good.
We're getting a new Gorguts record either this year or next. I know that.
And that'll probably just change my opinion.
The Colored Sands album it's one of the best albums to me, and it's just one of my top 5. And it happens to just be it's just amazing. It's I leave it at that. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, we played with Gorguts when they released that album, and that was a very special time. I absolutely love that, and I totally agree with Joey. And then Krallice dropped that new album, so now I'm gonna have to switch and go with Nick, because I mean, it's also because it's new and fresh too.
Yeah, right.
See if it holds the test of time, but yeah, for me, it's Krallice.
Then I was thinking of like two of the best noise rock bands out there, and I thought about giving you Today Is the Day and the Melvins.
Oh wow! And
Melvins.
It's funny because like I had a couple interactions. I would like hang out with those Today Is the Day guys, and they were so friendly. So I'm gonna just go with them because they were just real. I went over to a barbecue one time. I didn't even know their music. I'm just going on them as people. All right.
Nick?
The Melvins.
Last music-related couple. Talking about black metal, I wanted to give you very different forms of black metal. So I chose Dark Throne and Wolves in the Throne Room.
Ooh.
I saw Wolves in the Throne Room like a decade ago, and it was sick. So I'll go with them. I haven't seen Dark Throne.
I'm gonna go with
Wolves in the Throne Room. Sorry, go ahead, Joey.
Go ahead. I'll just. This one's challenging for me because it's pretty equal. for like in terms of me putting on an album and just enjoying it. Probably Dark Throne though.
And to show everybody what a weird fucked up mind I have, I'll explain the duo later. I don't know if the guys notice it, but I'll give you two movies with Leonardo DiCaprio. Inception versus Shutter Island. And it is related, that duo is related to what one of you guys was saying earlier on.
Inception. Definitely
I'm going to say
Inception.
the same thing because I'm not a big movie buff and I haven't seen Shutter Island, so Inception.
The book is even better. Shutter Island is a good movie, but the book is way better. But Nick, your last choice.
Inception, but I have to put this with I can barely remember both of them. I feel like I saw them both when they came out, and
they're also
I'd need a refresher.
They're also similar in when they were released. Joey got me to it. Joey, do you know which one of the movies is related to something that you were saying? It's Shutter Island. Shutter Island, because you were talking about Mahler. And in Shutter Island, they always have the Kindersterbenslieder, you know, like the songs of the dying children.
Wow, damn. I didn't even
for everybody to see how weird this head is, you know.
There you go. Yeah.
So, guys, thanks for the cool interview. Thanks for your time. And also thanks for being very spontaneous, because I had to postpone this today and they were still cool. And I still came a few minutes late. So those are really cool guys. Please support them. And not only listen to Gargling Rot when it comes out on the 18th, but also, you know, buy some merch, get a record, something like that. If you are still not convinced of a record, go to our website. You'll find an article, a review of a new record, and also about the earlier stuff. So, first of all, thanks, guys, for doing this, and your chance for final last words.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm flattered you had us on.
Yeah. Gotta support your global scene, right?
I appreciate it. I got a little thing I wrote for a last word.
Yes.
And I'll end this with a fun fact. So the highest vibrational energy there is love, and the only one that can change the molecular structure of all lower vibrations. It's contagious, so stay positive and try to love everything unconditionally. Nurture your ideas and protect your creations. Don't let the outside world discourage you from achieving inner peace. And finally, support your local artists, musicians, galleries, and venues. Thank you for your time, Thorsten.
Thanks, Matt. Joey, do you want to say something, or do you say, okay, I cannot top it anyway?
No, I can't top it. You were great. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day. Everybody, Gargling Rot, March 18th. Bye-bye.